Okay, doing a single raise pot blind versus blind session as the preflop caller. Okay, so here we face check on a pretty bad board for us. I think our hands are pretty clear check back. We don't really want to get check raised. We don't really fold out too many better hands by betting. So yeah, just gonna check back. Turn, I think we have a pretty similar situation. If we were check two again and facing a bet, I think pretty clear fold. So queen 8-8 is, I'd say, not the worst board for us. The 8s are pretty good. 6s is a clear continue. I'm not sure how much we want to raise 6s, so that's something that's definitely going to be a note. How often do we raise under pairs? I think that the weakest ones probably raise at a low frequency. And I think as we get higher, like 7s and 6s raise less. So I'm just going to call. So now we face check on the turn. So as far as our stab strategy here goes, I think betting smaller would allow us to bet more queen X and more hands like even pocket 6s. Well, if we went bigger, we would be betting like only stronger queen X and 8X. I think splitting between 1/3 and like a overbet is kind of a reasonable strategy. Basically like overbetting with strong queen X and 8X and draws, and then betting small with like 6s, weak queen X, occasionally an 8, and then some draws. We were pretty high. I don't think our hand's going to be a pure stab, so I will check back. So range-wise, pretty neutral river. And then our hand is obviously raise. Not sure if we want to like have any jams here. I think it probably doesn't make a lot of sense to have jams because most of our 8X would bet turn. So we're kind of only repping 6s when we jam. So I'm not sure if we want to just construct a shoving range just around 6s. And then as far as raise size goes, I mean, I think either the 80% or 127% option would be okay. Go with this. So interestingly, it's going for the small raise sometimes. I think if we small raise, then they will definitely 3-bet river with maybe some stuff that we want them to 3-bet with when we have 6s. They don't really have an 8. If they have an 8, they're going to 3-bet. Yes, the hands that we might be targeting are more like strong queen X to 3-bet us, although I think I mean, it seems like we mostly just want to raise small. The preference in the sim is to raise small, so we can raise some queen X basically in this line. Don't think it matters too much. I think I would just use like one raise size, like 75% pot or something here. So very bad board for us. And then queen high. We do have like some backdoor potential, but I think we want to stab stuff that's just a bit like weaker in absolute hand strength, so more polarized. Although we rolled pretty low. This hand may bet 10% of the time, but I think checking back is definitely a safe option here. Like I don't think it's going to be a mistake to check back. So same thing sort of on the turn. We have queen high. We don't, like if we think about like queen jack and queen 10 have a gutter at least. Queen 9 and Queen 8 are the strongest hands that don't have a draw. So just check back. Now we have, like, well, I think now we probably just have a call. But yeah, we can river showdown on, like, some runouts for sure. So I think the 8 would have used to bluff flop a lot with, and the Queen they're not going to be bluffing, so I think we have a pretty good bluff catcher. Nice. Definitely a call with an open ender. So now I think I'm just going to default to probably like a 75% bet. With a higher number, I don't hate checking this back and then trying to bluff river. I think if we had a hand like Jack 8 or Jack 10, those hands would also take this line of checking back and value betting river. And now we just have an easy call. I think it's too thin to raise on the paired board. Just a super low stab frequency board, and we don't have too much of anything going on. So check back. We turn a pair. Reasonably bad turn for us, I think. Flush completes, which is good, but another high card. Versus small, we have to call. Not super happy about it. We river 2 pair, and we have a value bet. I don't think any other size besides 60% here makes sense. I think overbet is probably like a little bit too thin. Okay, so this board actually I think makes some sense to start some sizing down because the 2 lower cards are so low that we're going to have a lot of hands like 6-5 offsuit, 7-6 offsuit, 3 deuce, 4 deuce, 5 deuce that want to like stab small. With a 95, be the more passive option. So I'll check back ace 4. Although I don't think ace 4 is the most like insane stab. I think stabbing ace 4, I may prefer to go the big size because I want to get like ace 5 through probably like ace 9 to fold. I don't think we can get ace 10 or ace jack to fold. And the 4 of spades is like comes in handy on certain runouts. So here we turn. It's a pretty good turn for our range and our hand. We turn some equity, and our range kind of will hit this card better than the small blind. So we roll pretty low. We have a combo draw. As far as sizing here, I think probably have a couple options. We could try to like split between a small size and a bigger size, or we could just use one medium size. I think using one medium size is probably a bit easier because worrying about having to split like, well, I'm just gonna bet 75%. Maybe half pot's better. Now I think we have a value bet on the river. It's a little thin, but out of position shouldn't have too many ace x. Well, they'll have a lot of like ace x with a spade that like check calls turn actually. Still think we have a value bet though. Maybe it preferred 50%. Okay, now value betting is just too thin here. Turn is also just a check back. So it's kind of interesting here on the turn. There's, I think, 2 kind of competing factors. At least how I see it is we want to get the better ace x to fold. So we clean up our out on the ace. But when we bet with the 4 of spades, we kind of burn our flush out because when we get called, they're going to call with like a better spade super often. And then it also looks like our delay stab size is just a small size. So a lot of our flush draws would have stabbed flop, and we want to be able to value bet within protection bet a 6. Another interesting thing here is that like King X is checking back quite often. Top pair is checking back 75% of the time, while like second pair is betting over half of the time, which is, I feel like, something that you generally don't see. That kind of thing happening after the flop checks through, like second pair betting so much more often than top pair. If we do take this line and then we get to the river, I guess we could like look at it briefly on what our thinnest value bets are. It looks like we only want to overbet, which is pretty interesting. I guess the only hands that really would want to bet any smaller is 2 pair, and we in this line we really shouldn't have too many top pairs. So then we wouldn't bet a king, and then our only real other hand would be like a weak 2 pair. So then yeah, overbetting only actually makes a lot of sense here. But yeah, I'll take a note for this board. After check flop, play stab. Kind of curious if the reason why we would check back top pair is because no, I was thinking maybe like if we bet top pair small, if we bet King X on the turn small and then get called, it would be too thin to value bet river, but that is just not the case. So as far as why we check back so much top pair, not exactly sure. I mean, we don't need a lot of protection, and getting check raised is pretty bad. I'm not sure. In positions or out of position check raise frequency is not that high though. But I guess in solver land, like if we were to stab a lot of top pair, then they could maybe start check raising more or something like that. But yeah, not too sure why. Like a hand like King Jack or King 10 isn't betting more often, and then a hand like these weak 6x is betting super often. Anyways, so it'd be a pretty decent board for us. Just 2 cards under a 6 is pretty good. I don't think we want to raise King 3 too often. I think we would rather raise like 5-3, 3 deuce. So I would call. Turn is pretty interesting. I think it should be pretty good for us. The flush completes, and we'll flip-flop a lot of ace-x, so they won't bet a lot of ace-x. Face a small bet on the turn. Pretty tricky spot with our hand. I mean, in terms of our overall range, we're going to have to fold our floats that, like, just don't turn anything. We're going to have to fold probably pocket pairs without a spade. I think this is a fold because we're folding the way I see it is if we have like pocket 6s without a spade, that just I think has to be a fold. And this is a board pair, but I think it's still like around the same equity as 6s without a spade. So I don't know. It's something that I think I probably don't do enough, but like I think it's kind of cool is estimating like if you know another hand in the range is a fold just based on like your whatever intuition, and then you can think of like a hand that you're like the King 3 I was kind of in a tough spot with, but I was like, okay, 6s without a spade is I think a fold, or a pretty clear fold it seemed in my mind, and then king 3 has like around the same equity as 6's no spade. So obviously there's like certain factors, like if we have maybe a hand like 7-6 with a spade that has like less equity, but we have a draw to improve, so it doesn't work out there. But I guess with hands that are like similar in absolute hand strength, like one pair or no spade, it works out pretty well, I guess. Monotone board with ace 4. I mean, I think our hand's just like a check back, just in terms of having ace high and probably blocking a lot of check folds. I would probably just default to half pot as a stab here, like half pot at like a mid-low frequency, but monotone boards are pretty tricky. So it looks like we actually should stab ace 4 with a low number. Turn. I probably don't see the small size making sense on the turn king. I think our bet frequency is probably pretty low too. Now river, I think we have a bluff. Not going to show up with... I think definitely would bluff like every queen high or worse. And I think ace high still bluffs too, so... So I said that like we would, or I would bet half pot at a mid-low frequency. I would prefer smaller. Turn, delay stab. So I thought, yeah, big size makes sense, but I thought it would be lower frequency than this. As far as our like range construction goes, it's pretty good amount of top pair, and then not really anything worse, and then bluffs, mostly hands with a spade, and occasionally the kind of random hand. A lot of queen highs with no spade starting to stab. Even, yeah, some of these hands are straight draws without a spade. And then when it checks down, our bluffing threshold is about, looks like ace 7. And we bluff everything worse than ace 7. Pretty clear check back with this hand. And same thing on the turn. I think not the happiest call, but when we have a gutter facing a small bet, we have to just call. And just a fold, I think. It's raising. It's a spicy play. So I think a board where I would just use a 75% check or 75% bet or check stab strategy, and then Jack 7 would check back. If I were to stab a 7, probably be like ace of spades 7 sometimes, and then like 7-5, 7-4, mostly with hearts, just to have some like 7x in the range. I think we pretty close to having a pretty close spot here. 7s, I think, or the Jack 7. I kind of think that out of position will value bet most better hands, like 8s or a 9. I think I'm gonna value bet. I would think that a 7 with a kicker is value betting, like king 7. Yeah, so it gets pretty close with like a7 and king7. I thought that out of position, if they have like eights, yeah, would just pure block. They do check some 9x to like prevent us from value betting too many 7x, I guess. But yeah, it's a little weird. Obviously, we can also face some check raises. Seems like a board texture though, where in game people are gonna like station ace high a lot, or station all these pairs. So actually, I think I like value betting a 7 still. Tricky spot. We do have a gutter, but very bad board for us. I think we don't want to continue. Well, blind versus blind, gutter, nut gutter, and an overcard is pretty good. Yeah, honestly, a pretty tough spot, I think. So I'm gonna fold just based on having like the worst ace we can have. But like I doubt we fold every ace that doesn't have like a flush draw or backdoor flush draw. Possibly we do. Yeah, so like a hand like ace 8 is continuing, but then like the weaker ace x is only only with the backdoor equity. I guess ace 8 is technically a double gutter. It hits on a 9. Do 2 more hands. Yeah, so a board where I think the smaller stab makes sense here. Super high number, I'm just going to check back this hand. Definitely like a reasonable stab hand with both suits. I feel like a turn where, I mean, it's a double flush draw board, and it's like pretty dynamic, so that would lead me to believe we would use a big size. That said, like, we do still have a lot of like 4x, deuce x that could benefit from stabbing small and just folding out like queen 7 of clubs. I'm gonna bet big here with the 21 on the RNG. Pretty aggressive sizes being used. I think based on the board texture, the bigger size makes sense. I thought that we wouldn't have too many improves on the 9. So I was a little skeptical of using the bigger size. But looks like it's good. King 8 is pretty close here, I think. So I think King 9 is a call, just based on having the backdoor straight draw. Offsuit, Queen 8 no suit. I feel like Queen 8 no suits is a fold. I feel like Jack 9 no suits is probably a call. A fold. So again, I'm trying to think about similar hands that I have more of a clue of what to do with, and then trying to approximate it to like my exact hand. So I said King 9 and King 9 is a call, and Queen 8 is probably a fold, and Jack 9 is probably a call. It doesn't help out like a ton, but I guess the heuristic of just not having the backdoor straight draw is like makes this hand low enough equity to fold. All right, call that a video.